Hi Renee, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you
Good,
today?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Are you ready for this awesome interview about Prague Youth Theatre?
I am ready for this awesome interview about Prague Youth Theatre.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So let's start with talking about the history of PYT. So could you please tell me more about the founding of the company and like what was your aims and what were you hoping to accomplish?
Sure, yeah, I've been in Prague for 15 years now, and I think I'd been in Prague for 5 years. And I'd been teaching English, and I'd been teaching drama and international school here. And I left the international school, and I'd always had this idea. I'd been part of youth theatres as a young, as a child, but also as a teenager. And there wasn't really anything happening here. And I thought there were plenty of people who would love a youth theatre. So I invested any money that I had, built a really bad website, and off I went with Prague Youth Theatre. I think we started with about 7 kids, and then as we went on, it kind of increased numbers. My main goal from the beginning was always that I wanted a youth theatre where the main goal was always performance. So that's always been, since the beginning of PYT, we've performed in December, we've performed in June, and that's always been a staple of PYT, is that we've always worked towards a performance. And I think that's so important. I think the process is hugely important, of course, but I think there needs to be something you're working towards. And if you're acting, what do you work towards? You work towards a performance, and so that your friends and family can see what you've been working on. And yeah, so that was the basis for setting up the youth theatre, really. And it was a really exciting process. I'd never built a website before, or I'd never, spoken to people I'd never run a business before. So it was a really exciting experience, and it has been for the last 10 years.
Awesome. So could you tell me a little bit more about what you think Prague Youth Theatre's mission and vision are?
I think the mission is to offer a safe space for native and non-native English speakers to do theatre. But I think the kids that come are not always kids that want to necessarily be actors or go into drama school. They're kids who might want to come because they want to improve their English, for example. Or parents might send their kids because they want to improve their self-confidence. Or kids just want to have fun on a Saturday or whenever they come to us. They want to have fun. They want to meet other like-minded young people. And it's great because you have the international schools here and you have the Czech schools here, and they're kind of all fragmented. But somewhere like Prague Youth Theatre kind of can bring all of those, those expats, but also Czech kids together. English is the common language, and so they're all talking in English. The process, as I said before, the mission was always, or the kind of my vision of Prague Youth Theatre was always that it would be working towards a performance, and through that process, which is equally as important, they're learning theatre skills, but they're also learning social skills. They're learning to work in a group. They're learning to be part of a team. They're learning that they've got to be punctual. They've got to have discipline. They've got to learn their lines. They've got to, sometimes put in some work at home. So through, as I said, through that process and through that performance, we've had kids who have come with very little English, and by the end of a term they're performing on stage in English in front of 150, 200 people. So that's that was my vision from the beginning, and still the vision that we have.
All right, building on from what you mentioned about kids who would come to Prague Youth Theatre, even though, irrespective of background. So that's quite an interesting culture happening at Prague Youth Theatre. Can you tell me more about how you would describe that culture that you see?
You're right what you say, Renee, because we are completely inclusive. So no one has to, apart from one of our groups, which are for our older students, none of our groups require anyone to audition. We have taster sessions, trial sessions where kids come along, and if they enjoy it, they stay. It's nothing to do with, we're not watching them and choosing only, the best kids. Anybody can come and join in. I think in terms of the culture, I think certainly at the beginning when we were a lot smaller, it was like a family. And everyone knew each other, and because it was such a small group. And I think as we've gone over the last 10 years and we've grown and our numbers are higher than they were obviously in our first year, I think we've still managed to keep that about family atmosphere. I know a lot of students say that, I know one of our students, it's on our website actually, she said that when she came to PYT it was like coming home, it was like a big family. And these kids, not so much at the moment perhaps, but you know, in normal times they will socialise with each other outside of PYT. We also offer, and we work very closely with the families as well, and offering, you know, over the pandemic we've been offering quiz nights, for example, or talent shows. When things are normal, we do a bowling party once a year. We have a summer picnic so that the families can join us. So I think that's the culture I've always wanted to create, and I love that kind of culture, that it's going back to it being a safe space, it's a family and everyone respects each other, as they do in most families, I hope, and enjoy being around with each other, all like-minded, all got their little quirks perhaps, but they all feel safe in this one space.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Right, we've been highlighting some of the highlights of Prague Youth Theatre, but let's highlight some of the lowlights as well. So let's talk about one of your biggest challenges that you faced at Prague Youth Theatre, and tell me more about how you overcame that.
I think early on, at the beginning, it was me kind of navigating how to run a business, and particularly in a country where, unfortunately, I still don't speak the language, but I didn't speak the language back then either, was kind of finding theatres to go to or communicating with people that I've never had to communicate with before, and kind of I was doing everything in the first year. So I was running the business, but I was also marketing the business. I was doing the social media. I was, creating the website. So that was a real challenge when I learned a huge amount in those early years. I made mistakes. I started groups, PYT dance and PYT music, which didn't last very long at all. And I lost my way a little bit there perhaps, and perhaps got a little bit overly confident and thought, oh, we can do the musical theatre, we can do this. And learned that, what we're offering, our core groups that we're offering, are what people want. There was no need to offer those other groups. So certainly learning experience for me in the early days. When it got to the point where we would, it was getting too big that I could run it myself, and we were having, other teachers. I guess for that was a challenge to kind of my baby, in a way, letting my kind of baby go and let other people work. And it was very difficult for me at the beginning to not so much trust other people or teachers, but kind of losing my kind of mark on it and feeling that I needed to be there for everything, which over the years I've learned, you have teachers working for you that are really good, like yourself, Renee, and therefore you can trust that what they're doing is fantastic. And so I've learned over the 10 years to kind of pull back a little bit. I think probably over the last 10 years, however, the biggest challenge we've had is in the last year during the coronavirus pandemic, and it's been challenging and it's been terrifying perhaps in the early days, and wondering if this, as we came up to our 10th year, was this going to be our final year? We've had huge amounts of support from families and from the students who've stuck with us, even though we've had to spend a lot of the sessions online, which is difficult for us. It's difficult for the students, of course, particularly when their lessons are also online. And we've kind of had to reinvent ourselves, really, I think, over the last year. For example, this term we're offering, we're breaking up. We are working for a performance, but rather than meeting in January and working for a performance in June, we're doing smaller projects, improvisation, monologues, devised theatre. But it's definitely been a challenging year. But on the upside of that, and I think that's the best way, any challenge you need to look at as something that you can learn from. And I think I've learned a huge amount from this pandemic, and things have come out for the youth theatre. For example, when we did the improvisation shows, how good these guys were at doing improv, and it's something we'll probably keep in our calendar going forward. Or training myself to work with, doing performances on Zoom and working with technology. And you're constantly learning anyway. As a practitioner, as an artist, you're constantly learning and constantly evolving. And I've learned a huge amount this last year. So it's been challenging, but there's been some great things that have come out of it.
Put the bottle down.
Does it look bad?
No, it looks terrible with the chips and everything.
All right.
Put it down.
Do you want me to do the whole thing again?
No.
Oh. I thought it looked quite casual.
All right. Moving on.
Yeah.
Adam, I want you to picture this.
Okay.
So,
I'm picturing it, Renee.
Yeah.
I'm picturing it.
PYT's 20th anniversary celebration, right? Now, what do you see?
What do I see, or what would I like?
What do you see?
I think hopefully we'll have, you know, a bigger Prague Youth Theatre community. That would be fantastic. What I'd like to see, and I hope that what would be great is if we had our own space, you know, our own dedicated theatre where we would rehearse, where we would have our offices, where we'd have our performances. So we had one dedicated place where we could store our costumes and store our props. So if anyone out there has a theatre they'd like to give Prague Youth Theatre, then please do get in touch. Give us a call or email. So that I think would be something we've discussed over the last 10 years. But that would be amazing. We'd have our own dedicated theatre, which may not just be for Prague Youth Theatre, but for other English-speaking theatre. That would be really, really great. So that's where I'd like to see PYT on its 20th birthday. God, I'll be old though. I'll be like in my early 50s.
Okay, let's talk a bit more about where Prague Youth Theatre is standing today. I want to talk about some of your biggest accomplishments. So, what are some of your favorite or proudest moments at Prague Youth Theatre?
Oh, there's many. You know, and I can think of many over the last 10 years. Really, when it comes together, and the show that you've picked is the great, you know, the right show, or the group of students you have just gel together, and I can think of many times over the last 10 years where, you know, I've been wow and in awe of the students, and it happens very often, at least once a year. I think early on when we started doing LAMDA exams, London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts exams, I think that was a really proud moment. I'd done those exams when I was, you know, a teenager, and I'd always I'd really enjoyed the experience as a young person, and I wanted to be able to offer that here. And at the beginning, LAMDA weren't keen because we only had a few students, and I think we had 4 or 5, and they send an examiner over, and they were willing to send somebody over to try and get the centre started here. But we've seen that over the last 10 years grow massively to 30, 35 students. So that's been a huge accomplishment. Over the years, we regularly do the Class in Action International Youth Theatre Festival, and we'd competed a number of times. And a few years ago, you know, we won Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Show. That was something we'd done 4 or 5 years in the consecutively, and finally, you know, we won everything. So that was a really proud moment, and I have very good memories of that. And we did a Czech theatre competition, the Talias, and we got through to the semi-finals with a play that I wrote called Empty Hands. That was a really big moment. Performing in the Prague Fringe Festival, we've performed 3 times in the Prague Fringe Festival, which has been, you know, on an international stage. That's been a really proud moment. I think my biggest achievements, or the achievements, not my biggest achievements, but the biggest achievements of the youth theatre, I think it's seeing young people coming into the youth theatre who might not be confident in their English, or not confident have a lot of self-confidence themselves. And I think seeing over the time, whether they stay with us for 2 years or for 5 years or, you know, 10 years, seeing them grow in confidence. And we've got a few examples of really seeing what changes we're making to that young person's life. And I think that's a huge achievement. Seeing these young people leave us when they reach 18 and they go on and lead their adult lives at university or in a profession of some kind of career. And seeing them flourish, and whether they go to drama school or not. We've had many students who've gone on and left us and gone to drama school. But seeing them being well-rounded, confident human beings in later life, and I'm still in contact with a lot of ex-students, that's massively rewarding for me, and I know for the other teachers and for Prague Youth Theatre as a whole.
Wow. Coming back to your comment about, you know, one of the regular proud moments that you would feel is when you see a show coming together and you get wowed by the students. So let's talk about your top and most favorite 3 productions at PYT. And why those are your top 3 favorite productions?
That's really tough, because there's been so many, and I don't want to miss any out. Top 3. Oof. They're probably more the ones that I remember the most are probably more, and this isn't to say that I don't love the shows that the younger groups have done, but I think for me, seeing the oldest group perform, I think they probably would be most of my top three. And I think that isn't, as I said, that's not to say the other shows aren't great, but I think when they reach the top group, you see a culmination of, whether it be 2 or 3 or 4, as I said before, 5 or 6 years, you kind of see them and they've improved so much. And I love seeing the shows over a week when we perform them, because you start with the 6 to 8s, and by the end of the week you see, you know, the oldest group, and it's great to see that progression as they go up and learn new skills. So my 3 favourite plays, I think I'd have to say it's one of the first plays we did, called DNA, which was a great play, which we performed at the Vadlo Camper, and it just came to, again, you sometimes get, and we have so many talented students, but sometimes it just comes together. You know, the stars align, and you, as I said, you choose the right play. You choose, you know, you cast it correctly, and you know, you've got to really infuse it. And DNA was that was very early on, but that was the first. Well, I think seeing that play and doing that play was the first time I thought, yes, this is going to work. This is actually going to work. So that would be up there. A Midsummer Night's Dream. We did A Midsummer Night's Dream. I can't remember the year. I'll have to check the website, www.pyt.cz. I did check the website, but I can't remember exactly what year that was. But again, that was a fantastic performance. We performed that at Prague. We performed it in the round. We had great audiences. We had a great cast. It's a great play. We had a lot of fun. We set it in kind of at a music festival. In the 60s, so the music that we had was great, the costumes were great, and some of the students helped with the costumes, and there was underscoring throughout. We had one of our interns who played the guitar throughout, so the whole thing was, our teacher at the time, Brandy, she did a fantastic job on the lights. It just really came together. It was a fantastic performance. Doing it in the round was the first time I'd done it in the round, show in the round, and it just came together. I love that experience. Play 3. Oof. See, those two are... Okay, I think it would probably be a play we did called Bassett, which was, I won't go into the play, but it was hugely socially relevant. But then there was Letter to Lacey, which was really good as well. You know, I like doing plays, those 2 plays, that DNA was sort of socially relevant, and I like doing plays that are kind of contemporary and unlike Midsummer, but that was great. And we have done another couple of Shakespeare's, but contemporary plays that really resonate with young people. So Letter to Lacey was very good as well, but I think probably Bassett. Bassett was a really good play, set in a classroom, great cast, really, really great play by James Graham. And it was kind of about the Iraq War and yeah, I mean, I won't go into the entire script, but that was a great play. So I'd probably have missed loads, and there's probably others that are great, but those are the 3 that stick out in my mind. Has that been all right so far?
Yeah, very good answers. So the people have spoken, Adam. They want to know the face of the company. They want to know more about who you are. So
Do they really?
Yes, they do. Well, I do.
Okay.
And a bunch of your students do as well. So let's start talking about who you are as a person. So could you please give us a sense of the kind of person you are? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and how it sort of shaped you into the person that you are today.
I started acting from a very young age. I think I was 8, and I joined a local group called Bedford Young Players, where I'm from, Bedford. And loved it immediately, and then did musicals, and we had a really, again, that's kind of, I think, where my kind of template for the youth theatre was. I was part of a group called Bedford Young Players and Redford School of Speech and Drama, and both of those groups were huge family atmospheres. I spent all my time with, you know, people from those groups, from those 2 youth theatres, the social events and the plays and the relationships that we had with the teachers, and I think that was certainly my template for the youth theatre. So I spent most of my youth doing theatre, seeing theatre, acting in theatre, doing TV and doing film, those kind of things, and loved it. And my mum had always said to me, because all I wanted to do was be an actor. My mum always said to me, you should be a teacher. And I said, no, I don't want to be a teacher, I want to be an actor. And wanted to go to stage school and all these kind of things. I did a summer camp. I worked with Redford School, which I just mentioned, and did a summer camp with them, and I really enjoyed teaching. And I did have, good connections with young people, but still, I wanted to be an actor, So I went to drama school and had a great time at drama school. And then kind of went into the corporate world and worked in the corporate world and kind of lost sight really of acting, didn't really do much acting, wasn't in the arts whatsoever. I was suited and booted and, working in the corporate world. And then I came to Prague. I'd visited, I'd come here with a friend whose brother worked here and loved it and fell in love with it, went home, packed in the job that I was doing at the time and came here and taught English for a while and then got a job at one of the international schools teaching drama and then set up youth theatre. So that's kind of a potted history of my life really. But the arts have always been, my father acted in amateur dramatics, my sister did a bit and studied drama at university as well. So it's always been a big part. My uncle is a professional actor, so it's always been a kind of in the family. And that's really been, from a young age, it's kind of been the arts, drama, acting.
Right. Looks like you're married to the arts then.
Yeah. I do love it.
All right. The next question that I want to ask you is, what gets you out of bed in the morning, Adam?
My daughter, 14 months old, wakes up at 6:30, 7 a.m. and I get up with her. So that's really what gets me up in the morning. However, I know what you mean. And I'm very, very privileged, and I think that, very privileged, very lucky that I absolutely adore my job. And therefore, it's never been difficult for me to get up in the morning because I love everything I do. Luckily, I'm in a position now where I can kind of pick and choose what I choose to do. And I only pick things that I love. I think it was Simon Cowell, and I'm going to quote Simon Cowell. But I heard him in an interview and he said, do you remember that feeling, Renee, on a Sunday when I don't know if you felt this, but when you got those butterfly feelings that you had to go to school the next day? And I used to be nervous about going to school the next day. And Simon Cowell said the same thing. And he said if he ever felt that, he would stop everything he was doing. It's the same for me. If I ever do anything that gives me butterflies that I really dread, then I won't do this any longer because I won't therefore have the enthusiasm or the passion to keep on going. But at the moment, and I hope for another 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, I'll still have that passion. So everything, the admin side of things, the teaching is my favourite part. And I've worked Saturdays, apart from holidays, I've worked Saturdays for 10 years and I've never had a Saturday off, and I've never, I lose my weekend and my family loses the weekend with me, but I have loved every single Saturday. Loved it.
All right, so now that we know what gets you up in bed in the morning, what keeps you up at night?
Again, my 14-month-old daughter. What keeps me up at night? What makes it? I often, when I'm going to sleep, I have a sort of things to do list in my head, and there's always a huge to-do list. And I think and then it's also then when I'll remember things, or I need to do that. So, or some of my best ideas perhaps come as I'm kind of falling to sleep, and you're. It might be a play that you can't work out, how am I going to do this, and it kind of comes to you as you're falling asleep, or I forgot to do that, or I forgot to reply to that email, or whatever it might be. So those are the things. As I said, because I love my job so much, there's nothing really now after 10 years that keeps me up all night, apart from I'm a workaholic, and so I'm always working in my head, and I'm always thinking about what I need to do and what we can do, or this will work well, or that play, I saw that play, that would be a great play. So not keeping up at night because I'm worried about stuff or anxious, but because I've just got stuff, my brain is always kind of turning. But often my daughter will wake me up as well. So
that's good to know. So is your brain power your superpower then? Because my next question is, what is your superpower?
I think it's my charisma, Renee.
Okay.
No, I don't know. My superpower is that. It's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that question. My superpower. I can fly. I'm invisible. I don't know. I think my superpower. I think, and maybe people who are watching this would disagree, but I think I have a really good relationship with young people. And I think rather than, I'm not saying I'm down with the kids, but I think that I really enjoy working with them, with 9-year-olds or that 18-year-olds, 6-year-olds I enjoy working with. And I think I can connect very well to young people. And I would say that's something I'm very proud of, and that's, I think, perhaps it's innate. And as I said, people may disagree, but I think I work very well with young people, and I think that's is a bit of a superpower.
That's actually a very nice segue into my next question, which is, what do you think is your teaching philosophy, since you work so well with kids, and how would you describe your teaching style? Because I imagine teaching in drama is completely different to teaching any other subject.
Sure. Yeah, because I think you get kind of closer to the students in a way, particularly perhaps the older ones, because of the conversations you're having or the themes that you're kind of working on. I don't see myself as their friend, absolutely not. But I'm also not Mr. Stewart. I'm Adam, and I always call me Adam. And that sounds sort of like, kind of a new wave, I'm a cool teacher. It's not that. I don't want that barrier of Mr. Stewart between, or wearing a tie, I casually dressed, and that's what I'd encourage all our teachers to do. I think I don't necessarily have a teaching philosophy. As I said before, I feel it's kind of innate in a way. I think you're either great with working with young people, or you're not great with young. That people may disagree with that, and it perhaps can be learned the same way as acting. You've kind of got it or you haven't, and you can work at it and you can get better. But I train, but it's not. I just feel I've always kind of had. I would speak to I edit myself slightly, but I would speak to a 6-year-old in pretty much the same way that I would speak to an 18-year-old. So I'm not talking down to a 6-year-old. I'm treating that 6-year-old like they're a young actor, or they're a young person, with obvious editing of some of my language and changing my language. But I don't talk down to a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old. I certainly don't talk down to an 18-year-old. And I think for me, it's also realising that young people, I've got much more experience than them, and I've trained as an actor, trained as a teacher. But there's so many students, probably all of them, who I can learn from myself. I don't know everything. I may know more than some of them, but mainly from experience and from training, as I said. But I've had young people who are far more talented as an actor than I will ever be. I've had students who are far more intelligent than I am. And embracing that rather than kind of going, I know it all, you know nothing because you're a child. Yeah, I can learn from you, you can learn from me, let's learn from each other. So that, I think, is, if that's a teaching philosophy, then that would be one of them. And also, I think, working collaboratively. So I don't walk into any rehearsal, whether it be a 9-year-old, 6-year-old, 18-year-old, and say, this is how this play is going to be. I want us to work organically on this play for it to be the best that it can possibly be. And through that process, you're going to learn perhaps a little bit about directing. And sometimes I'll say, no, I don't like that idea, we're going to go with my idea. But most of the time, they come up with great ideas and we try and implement them as much as we possibly can. So I think it's listening, I think it's not talking down to young people, and I think it's appreciating that sometimes they are far more talented than me, and they've got a lot of great ideas and a lot to say and a lot to bring to the group.
Wow, that's a really beautiful answer. I can definitely see why so many students look up to you.
Thank you.
So, this is something of a personal curiosity as well. What are some things outside of your baby, Prague Youth Theatre, that you are irrationally passionate about?
Well, is it kind of what do I do outside of PYT?
Yeah, that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah. Not a lot in the last year, I guess. Netflix would be a passion of mine. Cobra Kai I've just got into, that's a huge passion. We finished that, but that's a huge passion. So, over the last year. But generally, I love movies, I love the theatre, which is obviously in the same realm, but I'm a very keen tennis player. Perhaps not a great tennis player, but I'm a very keen tennis player. I also, outside, another passion that I have, as well as teaching, is I act professionally at Zimmerman English Theatre Company, so that's a huge passion of mine. Working out, I've just recently started working out, and I'm passionate about that at the moment. In my older years, I need to keep fit. What else am I
What about
passionate
your
about?
obsession with Strictly Come Dancing?
I am a big, that is a very good point, Renee. I am a massive fan of Strictly Come Dancing. I see myself, I'm a bit of an armchair ballroom dancer. And my wife and I did actually do some ballroom dancing. She was very good, I was not so good. I thought I'd be quite good. So that, yeah, definitely, Strictly Come Dancing. You're right, that's probably quite irrational. I do love Strictly Come Dancing.
All right, and this is also another question that comes out of personal...
And the Eurovision Song Contest. Big fan of the Eurovision Song Contest.
Eurovision Song Contest. Can you sing, Adam?
I can. I'm not saying I'm particularly good, but I think I can sing. I think I can hold a note. You're going to ask me to sing now?
All right, last question, which is a little bit of a activity where I will be timing you, and you have a little bit of improv as well. You have 30 seconds to name as many plays as you can that you've done at Prague Youth Theatre. Okay? 3, 2, 1, off you go.
Burn Dombie Dom, DNA, I've said that. Cloud Busting, Letter to Lacey, I mentioned that one. Mobile Phone Show, 1 Million to Stop the Traffic, Morgan and the Martians, Midsummer Night's Dream, Macbeth, recently Windrush Generations, Remote. First time was terrible, second time was great. The It, Tuesday, they were recent.
And your time is up.
I don't know how that was many. Well, I think we've had over 100 shows, well over 100 shows at Prague Youth Theatre. I don't know how many I mentioned then, maybe 20.
All right, and another round, last round.
Yeah.
As many words as you can that pops into your mind. When I say the word Prague, let's go.
Beautiful, one word, beautiful. I can't do that, Renee. Inspiring, home, family, friends, river, beer, of course, pubs, but not for a long time, theatre, culture, Zimmerman.
And you're done. That was really good, except for the beginning when you were like trying to think of different words. But thank you very much.
That might be quite fun to have on the video.
Yeah.
Outtakes. Thank you very much, Renee. It's been lovely to talk to you about Prague Youth Theatre. It's been a fantastic 10 years, and I'm really proud that we're now this year celebrating our 10th anniversary, and I'm looking forward to another 10 years. Thank you. Happy 10th anniversary, Prague Youth Theatre.